I'm Kai from Finland. I'm kind of in a double role here. I was asked to give a presentation on the topic which you see there, future ethical challenges and the task of the professional. So I'm representing myself as a researcher in this field. But I'm also a Finnish Information Processing Association person that they send to things that have something to do with ethics. Be it IFIP or CEPIS or wherever that happens to be. If they need an ethics person, I tend to be sent out. About my background in codes of ethics and things like that, I've been a member of IFIP Code of Ethics group since 2003 or 4, around there. And we haven't done a code of ethics in IFIP. We've done a kind of set of things that it would be good for a professional society to look into if they think that they want to make a code of ethics. ACS, latest what do you call it? Redone. The latest code that they did, they used that as one of the tools that they used. In FIPA, I haven't been a member of creating a code of ethics because the latest code in the ethics group, they got ready about half a year before I joined the group. And we've done 2 evaluations on whether to redo the code, and so far we haven't found a reason to why. And that is something which, before I start my presentation, I wanted to point out. I mean, it's been discussed that good codes are good codes, and it doesn't really matter what they are like.
Kai,
yep.
Can I see what you have been written in the license? By who is your work licensed? I cannot read that on your first sheet.
It's licensed by Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0. So you can distribute these slides, you can copy them, you can modify them, you can sell them, you can have presentations based on them. Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license. You can copy, you can share, you can sell, you can make presentations, you can modify whatever you want to do. So, but just a little bit of something. This is from the ACM code. No, it doesn't show, damn it. I'm going to see if I can make that happen. Almost there. I still don't get it to show. Maybe not. Is it? Yeah, there. Software engineers shall act consistently with the public interest. Shall. They shall do that. Now if we take, for example, Gesellschaft Informatik from the continent, this is a translation. I mean, surely, well, members are kind of expected to constantly improve themselves. A bit different attitude. Just to point out that the ACM, BCS, ACS codes typically tend to be shall, whereas the continental tend to be, it would be good if you did something nice. Quite different codes. Not the same, attitude to codes. Shall is even stronger than must.
Is it?
Yeah.
Not so.
Shall do it by God. Yeah, by God.
That whole thing.
That's Buddha.
Software engineers as appropriate to shall.
So just to point out, the approach is different in different places. There. Okay. We get back to my presentation. Good. Excellent. So, and that's been something that we've been pondering in IFIP quite a bit, just as a starting point. So, the task was future ethical challenges and the task of the professional. First, what is a professional? We've been talking about this already today quite a bit, so many of my things that I'm going to say have been presented by the previous presenters. Not surprisingly, considering that I have names such as Simon and Don and Bernd and others in my presentation here and there, so both during today and already before I came here I had some of these people's names up in my slides, so not surprised that these things have come before. So, but I ran into this term semi-professional I was in a actually a corporate social accountability meeting in Tampere, and the term semi-professional came forward. So not quite a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, as we just had a discussion here, and since pretty much anyone can write code, like again was brought out. My son is 16. He's writing stuff with Python now, and he's not a professional by any means on ICT. Yet he can make simple applications. He could probably sell them somewhere. So we need to kind of think, what is a professional in the first place? I mean, we do software which can have dire consequences, like we saw plenty of examples in Don's presentation this morning, but we also do mobile phone applications. It's a wide range of things that are done, like we heard from Simon's presentation. Innovations come from a lot of places. During the lunch, the table that I was sitting in, we were thinking, do we need 40 codes or 60 codes, or how many codes do we need for different kinds of professionals? I mean, maybe those people who make, I'm just in the middle of writing a paper to ISTAS to Dublin this fall. The call is still open if somebody's interested. If you have an abstract of 1,000 words, you can still submit. We're in the middle of writing a paper on developing country software developers. Why do they prefer mobile platforms, or do they? Is that an option? Does it make it easier for them to get to the markets or not? And there are, very different questions to professionalism. So we need to solve the question of where do we really need codes of professionalism and where don't we need them? What kind of applications are the ones that have not just indirect power, but direct power over other people's situations? I mean, if I buy Flappy Birds or whatever it's called or not, very little difference to very few things. Then again, if I buy a class of plans where you can make in-game purchases, which is basically a win game, my son or daughters might want to win, and I may get a 2,000 euro Visa bill. So, hard to say where we draw the line. The future, like David Horner is always reminding us in every Ethicom, we don't know, we're not going to know the future. It's something that we can't know, and that is of course true until the future is here. So that's why I think that what we need different styles of thinking that need to be trained, not necessarily the different kinds of application or fields in which the ethics is being currently or possibly in the future discussed. So, of course so although we do not know what the future is, we can predict some uses of applications. I mean, if you design a new automatic weapon, you can predict some uses for that device. It's not going to be difficult to predict some uses for that. But all uses, of course, we can't know. Thinking models, this I blatantly took from Don. I think it was in one of his presentations, I think in Barcelona maybe, that engineering, will this structure, this house that we're in, will it hold? That's the kind of question an engineer asks themselves when they're doing the calculations on a bridge or on a house and things like that. So how does that then come to our side, to ICT professionals? Will this application serve the users and the targets and the customer and the owner and all the target groups, the groups that are going to use it? But I want to point out that the way to look at it is the weakest. How does it affect? Typically the targets of the systems are the weakest. Patients in a patient information system is the target, not the user. The user is the professional, the healthcare professional who's using the system. The same is true for an accounting software. It's not the accountant who is the user who is the target of the system, and the same is true. And who's better off, like Bernd said? Who does it benefit? Why are we doing this? What's the point? That's something to keep in mind. Two things that I take from Jim Moore, from his just consequentialism theory, I mean, what are we aiming? What are we trying to do? Again, like Bernd said, what are we trying to do with this software? What's the target? I mean, if it's just an interesting experiment, that's not the thing. We need to keep the aim in perspective. And also, the foreseeable consequences, as I pointed out, are things that we need to take into consideration. A typical example of an unethical application would be spam. Both the aim and the consequences are bad, right? Spammers are not trying to make your life better, by far. That's not the aim of their why they're spamming you. Nor are the consequences going to be good for you because you're going to get medicine that doesn't work, or being redirected to a phishing site, or things like that. So there you can see. But that kind of thinking. What are the aims? Why are we doing this? And what are the foreseeable consequences? Are they good for those who are using, who are targeting, who are owning, and so forth of the system? Of course, specific ethical dilemmas can and should be used as teaching method, but we shouldn't get stuck with them. Even the future ones that we saw in Bernd's presentation, because as Horner is apt to remind us, we don't know what the future will be like. An example of that, some years ago we thought that e-health applications, telemedicine, would be used possibly to enhance soldiers at some point. It looked like a plausible direction to go. Now it looks like an idiotic direction to go. We have Terminators. Why would we enhance soldiers? Soldiers are not going to they're not going to be able to compete with robotic soldiers anyway. So it doesn't matter what we're going to do with the soldiers, because they're not going to be the ones fighting the wars. It's going to be different kinds of things. But of course, current and past things can and should be used as examples. And of course, we should look into the future and what kind of things are likely to come, because some things, yeah, it's good to be prepared even if they don't happen, just in case. So, responsible development is something that we need. Value-based and value-centered participative design. I think Bernd has written quite a bit on that. And we need to remember that part of the responsibility always remains with the creator of the software. If you release a software, do it at your peril. I mean, if you turn on a software, you should know what you're doing. If you turn on a car, you go into the and drive it out there, you're responsible for some of the things. Even if it's an automated car and you get in it, I mean, you didn't need to use that car. You could have flown or taken a train or ridden a bike. There are alternatives. But still, if you turn it on, you're partly responsible for what it does. But of course, also the developer is partly responsible of it. Always remains with them. What we need, especially, is ethics built into the system, not as a patch afterwards. That's what we need to aim for. Now, how to get there? Well, education, as Norberto always says, is the key, and as we've heard today, and it should start early, and it should go on. I think that the ethics and IT education in bachelor level, in professional studies, would be the bare minimum. I know that at least in Finland we don't get to that. There are 2 IT ethics teachers in Finland, to my knowledge, Tero Vartiainen and myself, and we both teach master's level students and on voluntary courses. It's really nice from a teacher's perspective. You only get the students who are actually interested, so it's really, really nice to teach them. They go crazy. They do wonderful things. I have 3 of them as my postdoc, as my doctorate students currently. One is already a postdoc, so very good for me, but it doesn't really help the profession. The national societies could use ethics work groups with some punch. The Finnish ethics work group has none. We have no say over anything, and I fear the situation is quite similar in a lot of places on the continent specifically. Code of ethics and code of conduct, yes, we need them. But they need to also be positive, not just negative. They need to have what is positive things in them. Why? What can we do to make them attractive to the people? Ethics certification, accreditation, as we've heard, a lot of problems, but I'll leave that out because a lot of that has been, well, and I have a code on that. Should we do things like exclude a company from membership if they break the code? Or an individual if they do not follow the code of conduct? I mean, some societies do that. I've heard of an example. But I think that, like I said, that it has to be attractive, both to the corporations and the individuals somehow. Added value reduces rework and things like that, like Don said this morning. That's how we get it to be positive. So methods, we need concrete methods to get developers interested. Not necessarily methods to solve the problems, but to get them interested in the way of thinking in the first place. And then, of course, some education informing internet resources and things like that. Internet resources, information on what and where one can learn, that needs to be available easily. If you go to the Finnish Information Processing Association webpage and you try to find the code of ethics, it's behind, I think, 3 layers of things. So you can't even find it if you're a professional and if you happen to be interested. That's the first problem. If you don't know it exists, you can't follow it. Other stuff than that, courses, mocks, self-study materials and things, decision support systems, like I think it was Simon who said that things like that need to be available. Easy to understand, easy to use. Laaksoharja and Kavatsopoulos are trying to make one that they at least hope would appeal to the professional specifically because it's an IT application and it's fairly fun to use. Cases, examples, codes available, crisis center advice clinic, that kind of things. We've tried discussion forums, but they don't seem to work, at least not in Finland. I don't know whether elsewhere.
Would a whistleblower have a role in this? As not internet resources, but just
that's a problem. Whistleblowing, of course. I think in one of the presentations there was something about whistleblowing. Do I remember correctly, or was it in yours, Don? Or?
Well, I tend to talk about it a lot because we have 2 clauses in the software engineering code that say you are responsible, and if you know something's going wrong, part of your responsibility is to open your mouth and then suggestions on how best to do it.
Yeah, it wasn't
in the code of ethics.
It wasn't in the presentation. It's in the ASEAN Code of Ethics. Yeah, true. Yeah, that's where I read it today. Yeah. So again, what are the things? I mean, our code in Finland says that as well. If you find something that is first go through the official routes. If you can't, then go otherwise. But what then? Support, legal support?
I don't know. It's the question.
Fairly problematic.
Yeah.
So hard to say. And of course, other things that you can invite the professionals to, or can meet the professionals. Take the message to them. If they don't come to you, like 99% of the Belgian professionals are not interested, offer corporations, companies, breakfast presentations, so that you go there and they offer breakfast for the people, and you talk about, well, why are you doing this software? What's your aim? What are you aiming to achieve? Is it something good for the people who are targets and users of the software? Wake them up if they're not awake. Breakfast, well, time to wake up, right? Anyway, go to work. So things like that. And of course, support peer learning within companies, between computer society members, professional magazines, write things to professional magazines if you're in a position to do that. Scientific journals, of course. Approachable books. Other one. I have to show something. We just got this book out in Finland. Where's my mouse? There. It's called Eyes Open to IT and Ethics. It's available as a PDF in the internet. It's published by the future work group of the Parliament of Finland. So they. Oh, and the painting is by my wife, by the way. Had to say that. Don, thanks.
What is the title?
Eyes Open to IT and Ethics. Eyes Open to IT and Ethics. So and it has.
You mean eyes?
Oh well,
Which eyes?
Yeah,
Eyes in
good
the water
question.
or eyes in my head?
Well, eyes in your head. And it's divided into two parts. The first part is more polemic. They're kind of thought provokers, and these are written mainly by people in the field, people who work. I mean, there are some that are written by us as well, but the first and second and then third are people who work, and then the second part is more academic. So we kind of try to mix them up to get the people to participate. The idea is that we try to find ways to activate people, the people who are actually working in the profession, to participate, to see the need for this. And that's our goal, at least in Finland. Other what? Consistent message slide in Dan's presentation had a few more ideas. But the thing that I kind of want to leave you with is that we don't need to write papers and things like that. We need to do legwork at the field and go and tell them this is why you should be interested, and hopefully get it past the critical mass. And at that point, it hopefully starts to work itself forward. And that's what I want to leave you with.
Mm-hmm.